Today I want to share a couple of extra things on what scientifically this Bemer is doing. Now, we said that the oxygen supply is important. I want you to imagine there's the atmosphere that we are living in, which consists of about 78% nitrogen and about 21% oxygen and then some other gases. So it's only about a quarter of the atmosphere that is oxygen, and so the pressure of the atmosphere in the old unit 760 millimeters of mercury reduces to about 150 at the front of your mouth. It's called the partial oxygen pressure. So the pressure in the atmosphere due to oxygen is only a part. So the partial oxygen pressure is something that gets measured, especially in an ICU unit. And I come to it in a moment. Observe this graph. On this graph you see that on the vertical you have millimeters of mercury from 100 right down to 20, and we have at the bottom, the horizontal axis, the biological age of a person. So many years ago, I think it was in the 50s, they took thousands of people off the street and they checked their ages and they measured their partial oxygen pressure. And the partial oxygen pressure when they're very young, at about 20, lies around about at 96, 98 millimeters of mercury. As age goes on, because these curves are practically determined from the sample of, I don't know what number of people there were, I think it was 1,000 or 5,000 people even, we get this top graph and you see that it declines with age. You also see that there is a bottom line there, and that is the line that is the partial oxygen pressure that is left after the oxygen has been extracted by the cells. So the difference between that top line and the bottom line is really what is available for the body to work with. Now, you've noticed that it goes down there on the first line, and you also realize that around about 50, that statistical example says 80 millimeters of mercury is the partial oxygen pressure we can expect in a 50-year-old. Now, that is also the cutoff in an intensive care unit where the alarm bells will start ringing if it falls below 80, because it is considered insufficient. Yet you see that people over 50 carry on going right down to in the high 60s of millimeters of mercury. Now, what we can see from this graph is it looks as if with age our partial oxygen pressure goes down. But is this a biological law? No, it is not. It is a lifestyle law, because we just took random people, even if it was thousands, we plotted their partial oxygen pressure, and we see that with age it goes down. What would happen if a 50-year-old, a 60-year-old, a 70-year-old would be able to stay on the 96 level or in the 90s level? Well, their health would improve tremendously. And it is such a simple thing, because the partial oxygen pressure, as measured by people who use the Bemer regularly, stays at a high level. So are you becoming younger again? No, but it is the ability of the body to extract more oxygen, which is to the benefit of each organ and piece of tissue in your body, each cell in your body. So that is a very important graph. And here is a graph that shows you what happens. If we take a group of 50 or 100 people, in a typical setup as we have today, let's say at work, then we find that most of them are pretty low on the partial oxygen pressure level. Let's say 70, and this looks a very straight line graph, but it consists actually of a lot of people. They started off very low. They were on the Bemer every single day, twice a day, and after 6 weeks, all of them, without exception, reached a partial oxygen pressure level of 96 millimeters of mercury. By the way, that figure will be slightly less if you're in Johannesburg, because it is higher. But at sea level, it's about 96 millimeters of mercury. Now, people then say, okay, that's great. Can I now stop using the Bemer? Yes, of course you can stop using the Bemer. But if nothing else in your lifestyle has changed, then after a 6-month period, you will be back to where you all were at the beginning. And this has been demonstrated and tested a few times. I always use this comparison. If you want to climb a high mountain, occasionally, that if you had no practice, you'll be out of breath and you'll feel it in your legs because there's lack of oxygen in your legs. The blood vessels are not working properly. But if you do this every single day for 6 weeks, you will be so mountain fit, you get up there without any problems at all. So the Bemer is in a way helping the body to start this vasomotion again. After 6 weeks, your blood vessel story will be almost completely restored to what it should be. And now many of your symptoms, of your ailments disappear. You can take less medication. I wouldn't advocate that you do that unilaterally. You ask your doctor to do that. But the point is this: you need less and less medication. You get better and better. Of course, the medication also does its part. But partial oxygen pressure improvement is critical, and it happens automatically if you use the Bemer regularly. Thank you very much for checking in, and we trust to see you next week again.